Imagine this. Two top stars, same agency, both tangled up in tax scandals, but the way their company reacts to them could not be more different. That's the weird situation playing out right now with Cha Eun-woo and Kim Seon-ho under Fantagio. And once you look at the details, it starts to feel less like coincidence and more like cold calculation. Cha Eun-woo's mess exploded first. Reports came out that the National Tax Service hit him with a tax bill topping 20 billion won, all connected to a corporation set up under his mother's name. The idea basically was that his income was split three ways, between Fantagio, himself, and his mother's company, in a way the tax authorities apparently found way too convenient. On top of that, Fantagio itself got slapped with an 8.2 billion won fine because the agency was accused of processing false tax invoices for that family corporation. When this story broke, fans were in shock, and netizens started tearing apart every detail, from the company's registered address being an eel restaurant owned by his parents to old social media posts about him visiting the place. So what did Fantagio do when Cha Eun-woo's name was getting dragged through the mud? They played it incredibly safe. Their statement was dry, careful, and basically said the investigation is still ongoing, the findings aren't final, and they're cooperating with the tax authorities. Cha Eun-woo also put out his own message, but it was the kind of non-apology you'd expect from someone in legal trouble. Nothing too concrete, nothing that would dig the hole deeper. There was no dramatic admission, no list of corrective actions, and definitely no feeling that the agency was ready to throw him under the bus. It looked like they were trying to ride it out, hoping the noise would die down. Then, just when people were still digesting Cha Eun-woo's situation, along came the Kim Seon-ho bomb. Reports surfaced that he had set up a one-man corporation back in January 2024, and through it paid salaries to his parents and used a corporate card for personal expenses, living costs, entertainment, even cigarettes and karaoke bars. That's the kind of stuff that sounds wild coming from a star whose whole image is built on being decent and down to earth. On top of that, there were suspicions he routed income from his previous agency through that company to pay corporate tax instead of the much higher personal income tax rate, which screams tax optimization at best and evasion at worst. Fantagio's reaction to Kim Seon-ho, though, was night and day compared with how they handled Cha Eun-woo. They didn't just put out a vague, "we're checking" statement. They admitted, yes, he set up the corporation in January 2024 and received payments through it until his exclusive contract with Fantagio started in February 2025. They said the company has basically been dormant for over a year now. But then they went further. They acknowledged that the way he ran the corporation could be misleading, so he stopped using it, returned the corporate car and card, stopped paying family salaries, and paid extra personal income tax on top of the corporate tax he'd already paid. They even said the corporation is in the process of being closed, and Kim Seon-ho himself apologized, saying he managed it out of ignorance and regretted causing concern. If you read the two statements back to back, it honestly feels like they came from completely different companies. For Cha Eun-woo, the tone is, don't jump to conclusions. The tax office's view isn't final. For Kim Seon-ho, the tone is, he messed up. He's fixing it. We're sorry. That difference didn't go unnoticed, and commentators like former entertainment reporter Lee Jin-ho called it out hard. He pointed out that it's bizarre to see such contrasting responses from the same agency, especially when both cases involve family corporation-style tax structures and the same basic underlying issue: stars using companies to manage their income in ways the tax authorities don't like. So the big question a lot of people are asking isn't just about taxes. It's, did Fantagio subtly cut ties with Cha Eun-woo by distancing themselves while trying to save Kim Seon-ho by owning the mess? The harsh reality of the industry is that agencies don't just manage talent, they manage risk. Cha Eun-woo is currently enlisted in the military, so he's not out there filming dramas, shooting ads, or promoting music. From a purely cold business standpoint, he's not the moneymaker right now. Kim Seon-ho, on the other hand, has a packed schedule with projects and is very active, which means he's the one bringing in cash. And that makes him the one Fantagio can't afford to let burn. When you look at it like that, the agency's strategy starts to make a twisted kind of sense. With Cha Eun-woo, they chose to keep things vague and defensive because there was no immediate PR disaster to fix, no new drama dropping next month, no big campaigns at risk. With Kim Seon-ho, the scandal was threatening his current and future work, so they went into full damage control mode. They practically admitted wrongdoing to get ahead of the story, framing it as ignorance and self-correction rather than intentional evasion. It's a classic PR playbook: confess quickly, fix what you can, and pray the public forgives a mistake even if they won't forgive a crime. Another thing that's quietly uncomfortable for Cha Eun-woo in all this is Fantagio's insistence stance on separating the two cases so sharply. By stressing that Kim Seon-ho's one-man corporation has nothing to do with his contract and salary under Fantagio, they are implicitly saying this is not the Cha Eun-woo situation. They're drawing a line in the sand. Over there is the 20 billion won mess tied to a mom-run corporation and false tax invoices. Over here is the we fixed it already one-man corporation story. That distinction helps Kim Seon-ho, but it also leaves Cha Eun-woo stranded on the more extreme end of the scandal spectrum, with the agency quietly backing away instead of loudly defending him. There's also the insider factor. Reports on Kim Seon-ho's case mention that details about his parents' salaries and corporate card usage aren't things that outsiders would just guess. Someone close enough to know fed that information to the press, and it feels personal. For Cha Eun-woo, the details that got picked apart came more from official documents, tax filings, and investigators rather than an insider leaking receipts and habits. That difference in how the scandals came to light might also explain why Fantagio felt the need to be more concrete with Kim Seon-ho, because the rumors were specific, embarrassing, and very human, not just numbers on a tax bill. Netizens haven't missed this double standard either. On one side, they see an agency barely saying anything while one of their biggest names gets hit with a historic tax surcharge. On the other, they see that same agency releasing paragraphs of apologies, tax corrections, and corporate closures when a different star's issue blows up. The sentiment online is pretty clear. Fantagio is protecting who makes them money right now and letting the other guy twist in the wind. It's ruthless, sure, but for anyone who's followed K-pop and K-ent for a while, it's also weirdly familiar. Agencies have always been more loyal to profits than people. Now, does this mean Cha Eun-woo and Kim Seon-ho are at war? Or that one publicly cut ties with the other? There's no evidence of any direct clash between them, and Cha Eun-woo's in the military, which naturally keeps him out of the spotlight. But the way the agency is handling them might as well be a quiet form of distancing. By making Kim Seon-ho's scandal sound like a closed, corrected chapter, while leaving Cha Eun-woo's issue as an open, ongoing investigation, Fantagio is effectively signaling that these two are not in the same boat anymore, even if they're still under the same label roof. It's also worth noticing how the tone around each star shifted after the statements. With Kim Seon-ho, the narrative moved quickly toward he learned his lesson, he's paying, he's shutting it down, which gives fans a path to forgive. With Cha Eun-woo, the narrative is stuck on 20 billion won Mother's Corporation eel restaurant with no real emotional resolution, just the uneasy feeling that the worst might still be ahead. That's not just bad luck, that's also how you spin or don't spin a story.